y'all, this is Arimmel again. Check this out. Check this out. There's a deep tie in here between this sporting event and Black history. Be right back.
The Vendée Globe, Everest of the seas, the greatest sailing race in the world.
It's extreme. It's about resilience and high technology.
Every 4 years, skippers set out to conquer the most hostile oceans.
It's extraordinary. It's like you're embarking on a journey out of this world.
A solo, non-stop, unassisted race around the planet that lasts nearly 3 months.
You have to be able to fix every small problem. You have to try and make sure it impacts your performance as little as possible.
A dangerous yet thrilling adventure. How do sailors live up to the challenge?
Basically, they've designed ships for this sporting event that are supposed to cross the world. They're going to go all the way around. I think the best was slightly under 80 days. And the number keeps getting smaller. So they're going to go across the world in these boats. And I couldn't help but think about what it must have been like.
Reaching for your dreams at the end of the world. It may seem exciting, but it's an extremely difficult goal to achieve. Since the creation of the Vendée Globe in 1989, just over half of participants, 57%, have managed to finish the race.
Let's have a look. We're here with the rest of the fleet behind. We'll try and head for the Cape Verde Islands. We've a big area with no wind ahead, right here. This is going to move southeast and bar our route. It's going to bother us for a while. We'll have to go a long way west. The whole fleet will have to sail around the top to avoid getting caught. The problem is finding the compromise. Go far to pick up wind, or stay close for a shorter route. It's not easy.
You see that? That's pretty cool, right? The way the fleet is having to maneuver around. Now check the similarity right here.
The changing wind strength and direction was unnerving. The fleet stretched out, looking for a route to the west. The leaders were slowed and the gaps diminished. 60 miles separated the top 15. Making headway required constant focus. Sail changes, weight distribution on board, maximising the slightest breeze. Every detail counted in the quest for progress.
Fleet now of several ships, many ships. Not as many as went on the Exodus, but many. And the way they describe some of the events of their journey is uncannily similar to the situations described in the journals of the great explorers, the African ones.
Moussa, one of the richest men to have ever lived, the king of Mali who lined his path to Mecca with gold and put his kingdom on the map, literally. But have you heard about the one who made him king? Before Moussa, there was Moussa Abu Bakr II. He was Moussa's brother and king of the Mali Empire. So how did Moussa become king? On his legendary journey from Mali to Mecca, Moussa crossed paths with Damascene historian Shihab al-Umari and told him how. The monarch who preceded me would not believe that it was impossible to discover the limits of the neighbouring sea. He wished to know, he persisted in his plan. Moussa Abu Bakr II was an avid traveller and had roamed all around his vast empire before yearning to discover what lay beyond the Atlantic. So he called on engineers of the Lake Chad to build ships so he could launch a fleet across the ocean. He hired a crew of sailors, traders, builders, artists, warriors and learned men, and supplied them with enough rations to last 2 years. He told them not to return until they reached the end of the ocean or until they had run out of food and water. But after a lone captain and only one of the ships from the 200 he had sent returned to Mali, claiming that the other ships had been pulled into a current and disappeared, Moussa Abu Bakr II began to prepare a fleet once more. But this time, the brave and adventurous king decided to make the journey himself.
So putting two and two together, right, you must imagine that there's a similar arrangement to the fleet's movements across the Atlantic. Maybe that is why communication was lost with the first fleet. Maybe that's why the second one was successful, because they were able to rally to the king and together move in formation, making the right decisions to guide themselves across. You see how they have those low pressure systems and the high pressure systems, and the dead zone that they see right there that's moving across in between them, that's a big deal.
In 1311, almost 200 years before Columbus set foot on American shores. Just as Moussa's journey to Hajj was legendary, so was his brother's journey across the Atlantic. A great leader, Moussa Abu Bakr II travelled with his men on 1,000 ships and sent a further 1,000 ships with supplies, trade materials, crops and animals, and of course gold, which was abundant in his kingdom. So did Moussa Abu Bakr II arrive in the Americas? We may never know, but there are many signs that West African Muslims did. Some of the strongest evidence comes from the pen of Columbus himself, who wrote in his journal that Native Americans confirmed black-skinned people had come from the southeast in boats, trading in gold-tipped spears.
So imagine that. from the southeast. If we pull up the map real quick, let's pull up the map real quick. Let me see this. So if we pull up the map real quick, we're going to see the fact that the southeast, where was that big-ass block that this guy's talking about, where there's no wind, and they got to try to outmaneuver this giant thing? They got to either go over top of it and ride the fresh batch of wind that's coming, or they got to beat it down, like they got to outspeed it down to the south. They got to race it to the south and cut underneath it before the wind ends out, or they got to just get enough wind in the beginning, and they can, I don't know, find a way to manufacture enough current and trajectory to get across the dead zone. You see that? Now, that would explain it. That would explain it a lot. Maybe they encountered this block a little bit further north before it made its way down, and they cut underneath it. They cut underneath it, and they looped around and started heading up the coast. I'm just saying.
Not only were these spearheads described as guanine by Native Americans, which was the Mandinkan word for gold, the language of the Mali Empire, but chemical analysis of those spearheads found that the gold most likely originated from West Africa. Columbus and his son also found that Native Americans had handkerchiefs like those used in West Africa, and clothes similar to the Muslim Moors of Spain. Whether or not Moussa Abu Bakr II himself made it to the lands beyond the Atlantic, we cannot deny that this courageous ruler of one of the richest and largest empires on earth gave up wealth and power in pursuit of knowledge and discovery. His determination to reach the Americas could very well mean that West Africa's relationship with the Americas did not begin with slavery, but with sailors, explorers, and kings.
Thinking about this and applying it to everything else, there's a lot about Black history that informs the way the world works and moves today, whether it's from leisure to the fundamental. So, I mean, as always, what do y'all think? Peace. Papiwa.
Just over half of participants, 57%, have managed to finish the race. Before the competition even begins, there is one crucial step: delivery. Louis Burton left Saint-Malo in Brittany to sail his boat to the starting line.
These are the final tests, and it's very important because it's the last time we're going to make any adjustments to the rigging, the lines, the boat before the race starts.